What's going on, guys? It's Jack Banks here, doing a little bit different video today. We're looking at some season bets, win totals, over, unders here. And today we're going to look at my best bets from the Eastern Conference. The next video we'll do the Western Conference. So off the bat, we're going to move from teams with the highest win total to the lowest. And I'm only going to cover teams that I think are worth betting. So if I felt like the line was set pretty well, we're not going to cover that specific team today. So with that being said, we're going to start off with the Celtics over 57.5. Now that's a high number. I get it. They won 63 or 64 games last season, and you could see some regression coming this season with Porzingis expected to miss a ton of time. However, the Celtics were still really good without Porzingis. I still think this is the best team in the NBA, certainly in the Eastern Conference. And so I think they're a 60-win team. I wouldn't necessarily bet, if we're talking unit size, this wouldn't be like a full unit play. I'd be more like quarter of a unit on this play with the Celtics, but I do think it's worth playing. The Knicks are next, over 52.5 if you can still get it there. I know a few books have moved to 53.5, and I know initially they came out at 51.5, so I was kind of kicking myself for not taking that 51.5. Got it, 52.5. The reason I think this makes sense is the Knicks were a far better team after the OG Anunoby trade, and with getting Mikal Bridges, they have a little bit of insurance for the inevitable 15 to 20, 25 games that OG is going to miss. I'm expecting Randall to be back. Now, things could certainly change between now and training camp. Who knows what Leon Rose is cooking up over there. Could be another big trade. But for now, this is a team I expect to win 55 to 60 games next season, especially with Tom Thibodeau leading the team. He's going to be hard charging for regular season wins, and this is a team that is set up to win in the regular season, especially with the depth they have, moving two guys who were key starters in Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart to the bench, and along with Miles McBride coming off that bench, who proved last season he is a more than capable NBA player. The only question mark with them is, who's going to fill in at that backup center and potentially starting center for the inevitable Mitchell Robinson injury. So if you're going to play devil's advocate, that's the area, the center position, and even power forward with Randall's health that you could say, and OG, quite frankly, health really being the concern with the Knicks. Next up for me is going to be the Toronto Raptors. I have them going over 30.5 wins. The Knicks bet, by the way, just circling back, I would say like half unit bet. I'm biased. I'm a Knicks fan, so I can't go full unit, but half unit seems to make sense to me. This Raptors play, I think more like quarter unit. And the reason for that is they are they're a young team that is certainly could be on the rise, but the Eastern Conference seems to have an 8-team block that it should make the playoffs, and then we'll see who teams 9 and 10 are going to be to make the play-in. I think the Raptors have a really good chance to be one of those two teams in the play-in, and for that reason, I think it makes sense to take them over 30.5 wins. They have a nice young trio in Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and RJ Barrett. And they've done a decent job of bringing in some other young pieces to surround them, whether that be like a Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter they picked up in the draft this year, Jamal Shed. They even got Ochai Agbaji at last year's trade deadline. And then at center, they've got Jakob Poeltl and Kelly Olynyk. So they got a little bit of shot blocking and spacing with Olynyk. So they've got options there. And so I like how they've kind of filled out the team. And on paper, this team certainly competes with the Hawks. It's not too much worse than the Heat on paper. So, I mean, it's worse, let's be fair. But it's not like night and day. So I do think that they could compete with a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference, steal some wins here and there, and win, 34, 35 games. On the flip side, we're going to look at some unders from here on out. And the first of those is going to be the Chicago Bulls under 29.5 wins. Part of this projection is based off of moves I anticipate them continuing to make. So what do I mean by that? They got rid of DeMar DeRozan in a sign-in trade, and they traded Alex Caruso. I think the sell-off is going to continue with Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine, potentially Lonzo Ball as well. And with that being said, they're going to be left with a team that features Coby White, who had a good year last year, Ayo Dosunmu, Josh Giddey, and first-round pick Matas Buzelis among your featured players. Patrick Williams you could throw in there for sure. And with that being said, there's a lot of holes on this roster. Even with LaVine and Vucevic, it's a better team, but I think it's like a 25-win team. Without those two guys, you're talking like a 20-win team, which is where I think they want to be this year with the talent that's in the 2025 draft. And that's part of the reason for part of the reason for these unders moving forward is that I think teams are going to be competing to lose games this season. Next up, the Washington Wizards, a team that I certainly expect to be competing to lose games this year. The Wizards at 22.5 wins, I just think is far too high. And for me, this is going to be like a 3/4 unit, full unit bet. They are a team that's led by Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, I guess Malcolm Brogdon for as long as he'll be there, and their first-round pick from last year, Bilal Coulibaly, and their first-round picks from this year, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, and Keyshawn George. And with all that being said, you're talking about a team that's basically led by Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and a bunch of really young players. I just don't see this team winning a lot of games. I don't see them winning more than 20 games. So I feel like 22.5 gives me enough cushion to make a little bit of a higher unit play on this one. And I do think that they are going to continue to try to stockpile assets, so they're going to be in the running for that number one pick, especially with their GM coming over from Oklahoma City. They're going to be looking to add draft picks where they can and just build through the draft with his tutelage from Sam Presti. Last up here in Eastern Conference season bets, win totals today. The Nets under 19.5. The only reason I wouldn't, do more than a half unit, quarter unit bet here is just because they have set a fairly decent line at 19.5 wins. Having said that, this team looks really bad on paper, and they are not trying to win games now that they got their first round pick back. And I think there's certainly a case similar to the Bulls where this team gets worse, not better, before the start of the season or as the season goes on, where they look to trade Cam Johnson, where they look to trade Finney Smith, and this team ends up winning somewhere in the low to mid-teens in terms of wins for the season. They're trying to, get Cooper Flagg or one of the Rutgers guys to stay local. I guess they're not New Jersey anymore, but Brooklyn's not too far away. So I think that's their path. I think they're trying to lose games, so under 19.5 makes sense. So I'm curious what you guys think about these Eastern Conference over-under win bets. If you agree with me, great. If you disagree with me, that's great too. And what other teams did you think looked good in terms of their win totals for next season? So let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time with the Western Conference. Peace.